Well, people, what the hell to say about the Contender series this week? It's week three, right? Week three, and these fights were bonkers. Oh, these fights were bonkers. You know what I mean? Like, four first round finishes, and the other fight went to the third. And that was just a war, right? That was just a war. It was craziness. It was craziness. I think what it showed this week was it's all about the level of competition. You know what I mean? It's all about the level of competition because okay, so one big thing, right, was the opening fight, right? It was the heavyweights, although you gotta say, I think it's Donte Johnson who won the contract. I think he can probably fight as a light heavyweight. You know what I mean? Because I think he came in at 209. He was a lot smaller. The other guy wasn't huge. I think he was 226, something like that. If I remember correctly, I might be wrong. But yeah, you look at the record of Darion Abbey, and like he had the height, he had the reach, he had all of these things, which is huge. And was winning. Like he was stopping people leading into this. And his last fight was against Alex Nicholson, former UFC fighter. But Alex Nicholson has had, over 25 fights. And then that's not even including his amateur career or anything else, you know what I mean? Kickboxing, whatever. So you kind of feel he's probably at a point where it's just like, probably shouldn't be fighting. Because even when he left the UFC, he was getting shut out, right? So although that's a big name on the record, you then have to go, okay, but where are they in their career? You know what I mean? But yeah, it's you look at the promotions he's fighting in, and not like, I am sure there are really good smaller promotions that, we haven't really heard of, right? More regional type of things. But, some of these little promotions, the matchmaking isn't the best, and the level of fighters just aren't the best, right? So you're getting first round finishes, but you might be murking people that aren't really fighters. They're tough guys, right? But they're not really fighters. Because there's those people that are good when they're winning. The minute they get under any sort of pressure, they crumble, right? So that's the thing. And I think another big thing, though, with that opening fight was confidence. And I mean, they were both confident, but what I mean is, I think Abbey was probably overconfident, right? Thinking, well, I've had more fights, I'm taller, I've got the reach. So he didn't necessarily respect what Johnson was bringing. And so when they were in the pocket throwing, he wasn't really defending himself that tough, and he got sparked. Donte Johnson was a bad man. Woo! That was some crazy shit, right? Now, our next fight, right, in the, was it lightweights, right? We had Cristian Pérez against Manoel Sousa. This was a really good fucking fight, right? And I think this fight just came down to conditioning. This was it. Now, when you look to these, like, Sousa was definitely bigger than Pérez. Whoa. Right? Whoa. But Pérez did a really good job, especially in the first round, of, you know, controlling things on the... Well, I think controlling things on the ground. Now, Sousa was always moving, right? Now, when I say controlling, I mean Pérez, he was very fluid, right? You know, when Sousa was trying to reverse, Pérez was stuffing it. Pérez was very savvy. So he was controlling his weight. He was controlling his position well, right? To avoid anything and to keep that top control. Did a great job of that. In the second round, right, Sousa was landing a bit more, but Pérez got it to the ground. You know what I mean? When things were a little bit... He got it to the ground because I think you can see that Pérez is in shape, right? And he trains with Dominic Cruz. Man, for a minute, I was like, first name? Right, Dominic Cruz, right? So he's conditioned. All of that is most likely there. But because Sousa was so big, you are using so much energy to keep that top control. So I think that wore on Pérez. I mean, it definitely wore on Pérez. Because come the third round, he just had no energy left. And so the fight got stopped. Right? Because Sousa just came with the punishment. But I think this fight just gives Pérez that little bit more impetus just to put a bit more work into the conditioning. And I think we'll definitely be seeing him again for sure. But out of all the people that lost, Pérez was the one that you thought, okay, he can come back. He can still do a thing. You know what I mean? So our next fight was the light heavyweight. We had Alik Lorenz against I don't even know how to pronounce Yakhyaev, right? I think Yakhyaev. Abdul-Rakhman, right? Yakhyaev. Yo, this was, I mean, this fight, right? Jeez, this was one of them, you know what I mean, executions, because I mean, it hardly went anywhere, right? Hardly went anywhere. It was just done. And when you look at now, it's definitely about, you know what I mean, the competition, where you're fighting, right? Who you're fighting. And Lorenz, you know, a lot of his fights were in LFA. But the thing is, when you look at the records of the people he fought, they're all kind of journeymen, right? His first fight in the LFA, he's 2-1. His opponent is 2-1. I think that's probably the best one, right? Then the next guy was 6-4. The next guy was 5-5, right? And then it's 6-6. So they're not like people on these, you know what I mean, streaks or anything like that. So it is, I think that's the big thing. You might be winning. You might be in a decent promotion, but you're still not fighting like these killers And so, yeah, this literally, you know what I mean? A few punches, I think it was the hooks, right? It was just the hooks. And it seemed that when Lorenz got hit, he did not know what to do. You know what I mean? He looked tough, right? He was tonk, he was big. But it seemed that he likes to be the hammer. And he had no experience being the nail or dealing with, you know, a situation. What happens if I get cracked? How do I defend myself? Right? What is the best thing to do? Because it just seemed he got hit and he had no idea what he was meant to do. You know what I mean? That's what that fight was. So Yakhyaev really just poured it on and got the win. You know what I mean? He did what he needed to do, and he did it well. All right, our next fight was crazy. Damian Wilson against Márcio Barbosa. And Wilson was another fight that trains with Dominic Cruz. Oh, man, you feel bad for Dominic, right? Both of these fighters did not win. But I would say Pérez, hey, he lost, but he lost well. You know what I mean? Wilson, this one, like, man, he's been fighting in Cage Warriors. You know what I mean? So a decent promotion. And he's been fighting, the competition, I would say, not the best. And once the competition got better, right, he didn't necessarily win, right? Like Tobias Harris, John de Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, as the competition got better, then, you know what I mean, he didn't necessarily win those fights. But when you saw, you know, Wilson, because he got hit so hard, right? Early, face planted. He got up like the motherfucking Undertaker, and it didn't seem like he was hurt. Didn't seem like he was hurt. But he wasn't able to stop the onslaught. That was the thing for Damian Wilson. He wasn't able to stop the onslaught from Barbosa, who was just landing heavy. Right? It's like someone told Barbosa, oh, you know, we're running out of time. You've only got 5 minutes. So he's just like, fuck. I don't have 3 rounds. All right. You know what I mean? He came out like he had no time. Right? He had no time. And he put a hurting on Wilson. Oh, that was vicious. And then our main event, right? We had the middleweights going. Trent Miller against Ryan Gandra. And again, it was one of these fights, man. It was one of these fights like Miller, you know. Hey, he talked the talk, right? The Terminator, right? That's the nickname, the Terminator, right? And it's just, I don't know, with this one it was so fast because he's not necessarily fighting bums, right? I mean, he lost to Mike Jones, and like, when, you know, Mike Jones had considerably more fights, right? And he won with an arm triangle. And then he's won to Buddy Wallace again, considerably more fights, right? So he loses those fights. Some of his other victories have been, against people on, not crazy bad records or anything like that. But in this one, it was Gandra just came with heavy shots. And Villa had absolutely no answer. Again, it felt like I'm used to being the hammer. I ain't got no business with nails. You know what I mean? Because the defense just was not there. It was not there at all. So, man, like, when this was all said and done, it wasn't a surprise that everyone that won got themselves a contract. The only person that I thought might not get a contract was Donte Johnson. Just because he was 5-0 coming into this, right? And it wasn't that he wouldn't get a contract, but I wondered if he might be put on some sort of developmental situation. A bit like when Chase Hooper joined. You know what I mean? I thought, would it be something like that? But no, he's in. He's in. And yeah, those that won so well. Right? They won so well. They did what they needed to do. They showed that they had the passion, the determination. So yeah, this was a fun week of the Contender series, and it's just fucking week 3. So let's see, we still got, 2 months worth left. So yeah, let's see, man. Oh man, I love the Contender series.